Inclusion within groups of persons with disabilities gives us strength in numbers, and the business case for inclusion of people with disabilities in employment conclude the discussion with Leslie. I am Annette Bourbonniere from Nothing Without Us, Stories and Discussions of Meaningful Inclusion. I am a 70-ish-year-old woman with short gray hair, dark-rimmed eyeglasses, and I'm sitting in a power wheelchair. If you like these episodes, please tell me. Leaving comments and telling your friends about this podcast is the best way to help me grow. Of course, leaving a like helps too. You can subscribe for free. There are paid subscriptions that offer more, including the Bitch on Wheels subseries. But content like today's are accessed through free subscriptions.
There's a stigma within the disability community as well.
Yes.
So for example, spina bifida. So I come from in my more youthful days, I used to play adaptive sports more often.
Right.
Uh, so there was almost like a comical conversation between spina bifida and paraplegic and amputees, right?
Oh yeah.
Right.
I
So,
yeah,
so,
I'm aware.
all right.
Um, yep, I've been involved in a number of sports, so yeah,
All right. So that was all in good fun, but I
right.
think that there's also an underlining seriousness to it that 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 if you there has to be a difference between people who have spina bifida, people who have cerebral palsy, people who have spinal cord injury, right? I think at the end of the day, we all face similar stigmas
We do.
as
Yep.
people who have physical disabilities,
Mhm.
right? And even there's an intersection now, there can be an intersectionality for those who have maybe a learning disability or a mental health disability, right? So
Right.
I think that we need to break down barriers within our community.
In our community. Absolutely. I think we will have stronger voices because there will be more of us. I mean, when you look at just spinal cord injury, you're talking maybe 3 to 350,000 people in the United States. That's a very, very small number. But once you get up to, okay, all wheelchair use, now you're talking, 5 to 6 million. Okay, now when you get all people with disabilities, we're talking 1 out of 4 people in the country. Now we're a large minority with a large voice, and I agree that this is, where it needs to be, in the long run. I mean, there is, some, I mean, everybody's going to face different challenges. There's even going to be a difference between somebody with spina bifida or somebody with a spinal cord injury. There's going to be something different between somebody with a T4 spinal cord injury and somebody with a T6 spinal cord injury. I mean, so there, we can't break it down like that in life. It is what we deal with personally. But to do that in life in general, we're kind of like shooting ourselves in the foot if we have a foot to shoot ourselves in. You know, you know what I'm saying? It's like let's be strong together, you know. Um,
Exactly. And I've seen that, I've seen that I was part of in my previous life coming from a healthcare background as well, where I oversaw the DEI recruitment efforts for people with disabilities into the healthcare system,
right,
in New York. And I saw that when we developed our employment resource group
right,
on the corporate side, where there were the reason why it succeeded is because it touched so many people,
right.
people, employees with disabilities, husbands who have a wife with a disability, a mother, a father, etc. The list goes on and on and on.
Yep. Yeah, it
Well, I
does. Yeah,
think if we take that same employment resource group uh, concept
right.
there, where you don't have to have spina bifida. All those are very important to have. I cannot stress that enough.
Oh, yeah,
I mean, those very targeted communities are important.
right,
Um, but I'm saying bigger picture
right,
is
yeah,
if we want
yeah,
to expand to professionals, right?
right,
It can't
exactly.
be only professionals with spina bifida, right? It has to be, and
Be a
then
very
that would,
small number.
sorry?
Yeah, that would be it, bring it down to a very small number again, right? Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. So
so-
if we want to be able to make a bigger impact, we have to have bigger numbers,
right, exactly.
essentially.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree. I agree. I even don't let people differentiate that, well, you have a physical disability, and then they're like, believe it or not, all disabilities are physical. They are all a result of some physiological variation, whether it's chemical, structural, I mean, and how it affects you. You're talking about how it affects somebody, but they're all physical. And I try to do that to stop people from, saying, well, is that a real disability or not? Yeah, it is. It's
It-
physical. And when you get it down to that, you can stop some of that, jockeying. Some of it's been jockeying for dollars in the system, and I know that. Um, and some of it has been the fight to be recognized as, achieving, and it's kind of that whole thing that others have their own barriers, and those barriers are as meaningful as the ones you face, so that the idea of fighting barriers together gives us a stronger opportunity to move forward. Um, at least that's how I look at it.
Yeah, and absolutely, and create your own potential business, right? So
Right, yeah,
I
right,
I I always learn, right? I would never say um I know, or I try not to say I know as
yeah,
much as I can. So
yeah,
we might have this conversation tomorrow, and then I'll 9 times out of 10 I'll tell you, oh yeah, we talked about that already.
yeah,
Because because the conversation we have today and the conversation we have tomorrow, there might be a slight comment,
yeah,
word that you say that
right,
might trigger or spark something that makes sense to me
right,
that didn't make sense yesterday.
right, yeah.
So,
Well,
okay,
that's because we're people and we're always adding to our knowledge.
exactly. So I think so the reason why I'm saying that is because when we when we say we only want this type of community or this type of demographic,
Right,
we limit ourselves
right.
because now we have people with similar life experiences, which limits perspectives.
Mhm.
And if you limit your perspective, you limit your ability to be innovative,
Right,
I believe. So,
yeah,
and that's something that I talk about with some employer partners or community members that are looking to invest or support people with disabilities. Is,
interesting perspective, really good, yeah,
what is the benefit, or how can we further invest, or how can we better understand the importance of this investment, right?
right,
What is the return on the investment, uh,
right,
if we choose to do that, and it's very simple, in my opinion. It's if you invest in this demographic, you give yourself the ability to you give your the business cases, you give your company the ability to bring different people to the table that have different life perspectives. And if you do that, you become more innovative, to my previous point. And the more you become innovative, that can translate into dollars, revenue. And I never met a company that doesn't want to make money. So,
You're right.
so,
Yeah,
and that revenue, and not only that, on the other side, so that's the business case. And then on the other side of things, you see the consumership, right? Because
yep,
everyone is a consumer, whether you're a consumer of a product, of a service, you're a
right,
consumer at some level.
right,
So, so the the and then I also tell them, so now if you weren't touching or engaging this community, now you are, because you've hired that community and now they're part of your culture. And organically, people are going to gravitate to what they're familiar to.
yep,
And if I work
yeah,
in a healthcare industry or I
yeah,
work in a tech company, I'm going to say, check out this tech company, not because they're the best in the world, but because I'm familiar with them.
right,
So that's the business case I try to make
right,
with it when I'm talking to community members or employers.
right,
And you see that with the phone companies, with the cell phone companies.
yeah,
Most, I would say, a lot of people with disabilities um, gravitate towards iPhones, right? Apart from the general population, but why? Because and myself, I'm not an iPhone user, so but
yeah,
what I but from what I'm hearing, right? The accessibility the technology is more accessible
is
versus
it, yeah,
maybe an Android, right?
okay,
Or maybe it's more familiar. Going back to that,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know, so people say I'm going to get an iPhone because
right,
I know XX feature. And
right,
that's because um, uh, uh, Apple intentionally puts it out there.
right,
So
yeah,
that's the
yeah,
difference.
right. Yeah, actually, iPhones, the deaf community very much adopted, iPhones early on because of the ability to do FaceTime, because their language is so visual. It would really, really improve communication among the deaf community. Um, but you're right. It is what you're familiar with and what you can grow with, and it does become the video gaming industry. When they decided to start being really accessible and getting into the games, they gained billions in profits by doing it. You make money by including more people. If you advertise with people with disabilities, you say that our business is really welcoming to everybody, and you do that. So anyway,
I'm actually working with a university now on their focus is on universal design
yeah.
and how and AI, universal design and AI,
Who,
and
which
how can
university are you
they,
with?
sorry,
Which university are you working with?
Maryland.
Maryland? Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
He's a professor there, and that's his focus. He's a researcher and an engineer, I believe.
Yeah.
And he reached out to me because he wants to know the impacts of the impacts of AI
Hmm.
on the disability community, specifically on employment, and how
Mixed.
can he build. Sorry?
Yeah. Mixed.
It's mixed, exactly, exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's what we talk about all the time, right? So it's
Right.
very mixed,
Yeah.
right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Uh, you know,
Yeah.
um, and then the other conversation that we have is what technology is out there that can be improved, or how can he build something, a
Yeah.
universal design process that would help people um, look for employment more effectively.
Now, in that respect, that could be really interesting project. Yeah.
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 So I mean,
Right.
we're in the very big. I mean, I just started working with him in September.
Right.
So it's fairly new, but this is the conversations that we have.
Okay. Well, look, I want to thank you for having this conversation with me. I look forward to further conversations in the future. I hope we can do that. All right.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for listening. I'm Annette from Nothing Without Us. If you like this episode, please tell me in the comments or by leaving a like. I'm still working on that first 100 subscribers, and I'm told that people leaving comments or likes will help make this happen. Of course, so will telling your friends to subscribe. So please do that as well. While subscriptions are free, you can see my new subseries, Bitch on Wheels, on the ally or activist tiers. This subseries is a little edgier, maybe sarcastic, angry, or humorous. But tell your friends they can find Nothing Without Us on patreon.com/Nothing Without Us, on YouTube and Spotify. And you can find me on LinkedIn and Blue Sky. So until the next Nothing Without Us, I'm Annette.